Hey guys, so Emperor James, who, by the way, I should have been linking to his YouTube channel. I'm an idiot, sorry. Emperor James left me, so it's linked below. Emperor James left me a comment on a previous video because he was harassed gently and lovingly about not liking A Course in Miracles. And the comment was something along the lines of, talking more about asking to hear more of my amazing opinion on, the concept of having to pay for your sins, especially if you were raised Christian, or I don't know, even my just minor Christian exposure, which was basically church, Sunday school, being forced to go to catechism classes from the ages of 8 to 13. So that's it. That's all. But I mean, it was fairly intensive. It was every single week, and I had to go to those 3-hour classes on Monday night. I never saw an episode of Alf. The injustice was outrageous, and I hated it. So even for somebody who has a minor exposure to Christianity and stuff like that, I think that idea of sinning and stuff like that, it gets in there. And then I think in ACIM terms, they say that, you feel guilty from the moment you're conscious, essentially, for separating from God, for the illusion of having voluntarily left God. So there's always that feeling of needing to pay there, whether or not you believe in A Course in Miracles terminology, or believing in it is the right way to put it, but whether or not that speaks to you or whatever, I think most people can relate to sort of a deep-seated sense of needing to, being bad and needing to be punished for something. That's just kind of always in there somewhere, waiting for you to misstep or make a mistake, or not even do that, but just interpret something you're doing that way. And then sort of, on some level, welcome punishment or expect it. Or when something happens, then you internalize it as, well, see, I'm bad and I did this bad thing and now I have this bad result. And I don't know. Of course, none of that stuff, I think, for most people is clearly articulated or, really necessarily even defined in those ways. But it's in there as just a feeling, as just an anxiety or some little thing that's just in there, feeling, idea, expectation, whatever. And so I wanted to speak to this. If any of you watched my video yesterday, I know not that many people did. Well, I guess for what it was, a lot of people did. But I made a very long video yesterday in which I was kind of talking about my personal stuff that I've been thinking about for the last week, and some revelations and stuff that have come up from this. And in it, I was talking about how there was a short period of time between 13 and 17 where I was subjected to some pretty regular, repeated, intense mental abuse from somebody. And I was powerless in the situation, and it quickly became apparent to me that I was not being attacked for any real reason. It was just an attempt to control me and break me, which I'm happy to say I literally never once gave in. Never once. It was a 4-year-long war, but I never, ever gave in. But anyway, I had to come up with some ways to deal with my own feelings about what was going on back then. And so, obviously being put in a position like that, there's all kinds of rage and experiencing the injustice. I think that's where a lot of rage comes from. It's not only are you angry, but it's not fair what's happening. So it's just, and you're powerless. So that's where that just rage comes out. If you had that in your past and you currently deal with rage stuff, I mean, there you go. It's got to be something like that in your past. And when you deal with it, if you're able to deal with it, then you'll find that those rage reactions don't come up the same way, as often, as intensely, or at all, or whatever. So that's the beauty of all this stuff. There's a real huge benefit to you if you can find the key to the thing that caused this thing back then, and change how you look at it. Anyway, so one of the ways, I was saying in the video yesterday, one of the ways that I dealt with that was telling myself You can't reason with this person. This is not a reasonable person. So don't try to reason. There's no, because as you can tell, probably if you watch this channel, I want to understand. Like, I'm on a quest for understanding that, I don't know. And even back then, I was like, I want to understand why this is happening so that I can fix it and stop it. Unfortunately, there was no way for me to do that. And I quickly realized that it wasn't actually, something that I could do. And so that was the way I comforted myself, was I came up with, that little saying, you can't reason with somebody who's unreasonable. You have to basically just endure their bullshit if you have to, and then remove yourself. But, don't waste your time thinking about it. That was one of the big things. But the other one, and the one that is pertinent to this video, that was very, it satisfied my feelings of wanting to get revenge, which I had, I wanted to just kill this person, as you could imagine. The thing that I came up with that really helped me deal with it was saying it's to myself, it's punishment enough just to be them. Like, becoming aware of just how shitty of a life and mentality this person had to be that type of person to do that. And at first I didn't quite believe that. I think when I started telling myself that, this is when I was like probably 14. But as I told myself that, I witnessed more and more of it being true. And it's proven itself to be true over and over again over the years since then. So there's no doubt about that. And maybe that's how I started to kind of experientially and painfully understand that the world is your reflection. Because just seeing, this person's failures and just the tough time that they were having, and also understanding, where it came from. Nobody is exempt. None of the people that are like that, they're not like that in a vacuum. They're like that because something made them that way. Just like you're the way you are because something made you that way. So there's a certain level of like involuntary compassion, I think, that comes along with that. Even if you like hate the person, at some point when you realize that they're just the sort of twisted end product of all of their life experiences, just like you and everyone else, I think there's a certain release of anything in there, no matter what they've done, and no matter how much you still hate and hold on to whatever it is that they did, on some level, if you can just acknowledge that something made them that way, there's a certain level of letting go in just that one little area, And this is also, I think, this also ties into all the A Course in Miracles stuff about everybody being sinless. It's like at the core, everyone is sinless. And because of the madness of this world, everybody becomes twisted and warped, and then all of the interaction between all of these twisted and warped people is what's producing the world that we see in front of us. It produces the beauty, but it also produces all of the horrors that are present. And so, sorry, I'm getting off track here, but I want to say this because I was also thinking about this. On one of the previous videos, A Course in Miracles videos, I said something like, God's going to come save the world. Save it from what? Later that day, I was thinking, and I was like, that actually makes perfect sense. The only way to save this world, meaning the only way to undo the current status, would be for every person to see every other person as their sinless, perfect selves. If everybody viewed everybody that way, this world basically ends and transforms. Of course, yeah, whatever. That's what that means to me. I don't want to go any more into that, but because think of the enormity of that task. But I think that is what A Course in Miracles is saying. It's basically saying that you viewing people in that way has such a profound impact that it's far-reaching. And if you're willing to play the role of that person, you're essentially the savior of the world. It's transformative when you look at somebody who is currently not in, behaving in that state, is currently blind to their own wholeness and whatever, the things that produce good things. When you look at that person and just see that they're blind, it's a huge release. And if you always see them that way, it doesn't mean that you allow them anywhere near you. That's the beauty of A Course in Miracles. This has, I don't think, anything really much to do with like physical world obligations. It's more just you need to view them that way so that you stop experiencing the effects of not viewing them that way. But like, it doesn't mean that, you know, you allow your abuser anywhere near you, ever. It doesn't mean that. But anyway, back to Emperor James's comment. So looking at people and seeing them and understanding that they are, like, anything that they do is resulting in punishment enough for them. They don't need any revenge to be exacted. They don't need any justice necessarily to be exacted on them. That, I think, is the demonstration of the answer to the question, if that makes sense. You're already living the justice for who you are. So if you did something wrong, if you feel like you did something inappropriate or bad or unjust or something like that, the only way that you still pay for that, and you will, the only way that you still pay for that is if you stay the exact same person who did it. If you make no, if you have no willingness and make no attempt to transform away from the aspect of you that created that situation, you are absolutely, I don't want to say destined or doomed. Like, you will experience that because you are experiencing that every single day. You're experiencing everything every day through who you are. So if you're the type of person that, I shouldn't say the type of person, this isn't like a permanent characteristic, but if you're embodying the state of somebody who is creating these things that you feel need to be punished, you will continue to do that, and you will continue to experience all of the other matching outer effects of being in that state. So, you know, you can essentially burn karma. Somebody astutely and more thoroughly commented about my comments about karma, which I don't know much about the Buddhist interpretation of karma, but, you know, if you're thinking karma is basically, I did something and now I'm going to, you know, the universe is going to balance itself. So I did something bad, now I'm going to be punished, then we'll be settled up. Karma can be burned by, if it's just cause and effect, then you change the cause, you change the effect. So there's, you know, there's no need to fear anything, really, if you're just willing to change. I'm going to start using the word courageous a lot. Because I think that's really important. And you can be a person that doesn't think of themselves as courageous, and you could turn into the most courageous person anyone's ever met. If you're willing to have, you know, if you have the courage and you're willing just a little bit, you know, you don't have to jump out of your skin to become something else, but if you're just willing to face up to the things that you don't want to face up to, the things that have created the parts of you that create the parts of the world that are bad for you and others. If you're just willing, just being willing to change is a huge step away from not being willing to change. It doesn't require any physical effort. It doesn't require any physical outer action. It's an internal decision that you could literally make right now. You could say, okay, I know things have happened in my life that I don't want to deal with, and I know they're creating parts of my life that now are bad and are probably affecting other people negatively. I really don't want to deal with those things. I don't feel like I'm ready to, you know, I have no urge or desire to do, and, you know, to revisit that in any way, or to even, like, you know, I don't know, just go anywhere near that thing. I don't want to do any of that, but you know, I know that I need to do that at some point, and I'm willing to take the very first step, and that's it right now. I'm not willing to do another thing besides this. I'm willing to make the decision that even if it's like the slowest thing, even if it takes me 10 lifetimes, I'm willing to, you know, start the process by just like this mental opening. I'm willing to do the mental opening step of this. And then I might need to take a break for 5 years. Anyway, you know, hopefully like you're not suffering from something that's that bad. But there are a lot of things that people don't want to deal with. I was talking on my last video about how much I really just like feel just kind of like repulsed from thinking about a certain event, a certain childhood event that has to do with relationships with peers and friends and stuff. Like, it was such a painful event for me that I don't even want to go anywhere near it, honestly. I don't really want to think about it. But because I realized how much benefit there is to me in eventually dealing with that, like 5 years ago, I said, okay, I know I'm going to deal with that at some point. That's like the last one. That's the one that's on the back burner. I've got all these other things that are easier for me, that I'm more like stoked about exploring and, you know, figuring out. This other thing, that just still doesn't feel good to me. I don't want to even go anywhere near that. Like, I get tired if I even start thinking about that. So I've kind of put that on the back burner, but I was just like, you know, if it's that bad, there's something big in there for me, probably. And 5 years later now, after a bunch of other things have been working themselves out, or I've been working them out, now, like, there's little movement in that area. Like, I've been more open. Like, I developed a few friendships over the last 5 years that have illuminated some things for me. And just little cracks are starting to form in the wall that's built around this experience. And I think that's how you can experience things. Like, it doesn't have to be some big jarring thing. It doesn't have to be some big scary thing. You know, if you've got some really bad thing in there that really, you know, I don't know how that will play out for you, but it doesn't have to be like some big bad thing. Just that little willingness, that little openness, that understanding that there are two roads here. One moves towards something I really don't want, and that's just completely ignoring this thing. That thing leads to more darkness and more experiences that, you know, are the natural product of not dealing with that. This road leads, however slowly, to liberation from this thing and liberation from its effects. Yeah, like, if you just make that choice, I think that this isn't something where you don't get to choose the pace. I mean, you get to decide what you're doing, you know, most of the time, mentally. You get to decide what you're willing to deal with. So the world may present you with more opportunities to deal with that thing and you don't take them, and that is up to you. But, you know, being open to those things changing, that's where I think you really, once you take that step, that's where I think you must stop fearing your karma. You must stop fearing paying for your sins, because there is nothing more that you can do. It's the biggest thing you can do, I think. So, if you take that step, I don't think you need to worry about paying for your sins. If you don't, if you are unwilling to even begin the transformation, and I know Emperor James is not in this place. If you are not even willing to begin the process of that transformation in whatever area this is that's producing the sins that you're fearing, you know, retribution for, I think what happens beautifully, honestly, because the thing works, the process works. I think what's beautiful about it is you continue to create that. It's just, you know, you're stuck in these loops of cause and effect until you change the cause. And so if you choose not to change, you'll at the very least, if you're aware, you'll see how these things get created, and that in itself is valuable. But the nice thing about it is that when you have somebody who has wronged you in some way, you can really take a lot of comfort in that they will experience one of two things. Either they will genuinely begin to transform in the way that, in the area that caused you this harm, in which case, look, you've got to support that for other people. Or just remove your attention. But, you can't continue to wish for harm to come to somebody who is genuinely trying, or, who is genuinely in the process of transformation, because there's nothing more that a person can do besides that. So if somebody is doing, at least doing that, then just forget about them. But if they're not, if they're still doing stuff, if they still maintain that they were right for what they did to you, or, if there's like an element that still enrages you, all you gotta do, just tell yourself, that person every day, even if I can't see it, even if I'm not lucky enough to witness it, that person is playing out their exact karma. And if they're the type of person that would do this thing to me, you don't need to worry about it. People, imagine where you would have to be mentally to do what that person did. And then imagine living in that state all day, every day. Like, a lot of these people are very cut off emotionally. It's just a flat, it's punishment enough just to be them. That was my mantra back in the day, and it's a really useful one. I think I have been given a gift in that I have been able to see this stuff firsthand play out a lot. And I mean this, like this, I have seen this be true over and over again. I have just, how do I put this? There's always been a thing with me where if somebody seriously wrongs me, especially there's no, I don't want to phrase this like it's somebody else's fault or I was blameless, because you always choose to be in the situation. You always create the situations in your life. But during earlier parts of my life where I was creating relationships that were reflective of my shit sense of self-worth, I was still a good person. You know what I mean? I still didn't deserve any of this. I didn't deserve to be treated poorly. I was just experiencing the logical thing that I would create from that state of mind. But what would happen is, I had a few people that really did some shitty stuff to me. And I had the privilege of being privy to how their life played out after we were no longer in contact. And every one of them absolutely imploded. Absolutely imploded. We're talking depression, lost their job, car repossessed, jail, just crazy stuff where I was like, holy shit, this is the absolute biggest proof I could ever see in my life that thing that, it's punishment enough to be them is true. So I don't know if everybody gets that. I don't know why I've been able to see that. It's I've gotten information I shouldn't get. I feel like I've been able to see things that I feel like was just a gift from, I don't know, from the spaghetti monster or something. Just I was able to see, and I was just wow, so many people might not have ever known that happened. They might not have ever been able to see how somebody from their past, got their retribution. And I have. So I can kind of say that, this isn't just a theory. I've seen this happen, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. So if you're worried about paying for your sins, just open up to transformation in the area of yourself that you think created those things, that facilitated you doing those things or not doing those things. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay. Just be open to that thing changing, even though you don't know what it is. That's all you have to do. And then the rest of the time, I think the more you can live courageously and act and be brave in dealing with yourself and facing yourself, I think the more you can do that, the faster you get through this stuff. But if you find it really difficult, I hate when people go, but. I hate that. Sorry. I always complain about one particular content creator who I listen to, a news person who's constantly but. I hate that. I always complain to my brother about that. But even if you're not able to be super courageous because something seems so big or is so big or whatever, even if you're not able to be super courageous about it, just the willingness, that's all you need. Willingness and faith, just a little bit of faith, meaning just a little bit of belief that it's going to be okay. That's it. Like, if you can't face up to something really big, there's other areas where you can start transforming, and maybe those will gently show you that it's okay to face things that seem scary. You know what I mean? Start with the small things, or, you know, the small things are what will start for you if you intend for this and you have this openness to transformation. But yeah, I think you can safely drop the fear of punishment. There's a lot of, you know, it takes, I think, a concerted effort to stop thinking of the universe as something outside of you with its own personality and its own, you know, or to start thinking of God as, stop thinking of God as something, as like a punishing dude in the sky. It, like, just, you know, how many thoughts have you had in your life where you thought of it that way? You know what I mean? It's kind of amazing how quickly you can change something, even if it seems like it takes a long time. It's amazing how that long time is really kind of a short time in comparison to how many years you've been thinking a certain thing. Like for me, this God universe thing, I'm still having to catch it here and there. But I mean, I thought this stuff for 40 years. I thought of God as a guy for 40 years. And I thought of the universe as something outside of me with a will of its own my whole life. And then, you know, I still have to stop sometimes and just say, that doesn't make any sense. There's not a universe out there that wants to punish me. There's not a universe out there that has, you know, some like accounting system where no matter what I do, I'm going to pay so that the accounts balance. You know, that was an idea that always bothered me, was the universal accounting system, that, you know, there will always be balance. Your bad thing will always be balanced by a good thing, but your good thing will always be balanced by a bad thing, or whatever. Your bad deed will always be balanced by a punishment for you. It's you. And I think another part of this is your own feeling of wanting to be punished for the bad thing you did. But I think when you start to view yourself differently, that stops, because you know you're doing all you can, and you know that you couldn't do any better than you did, because, you know, you were just expressing the full totality of who you are, which is what everybody's doing every day. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope that helps, and I hope that answers that question. And thank you for giving me something to talk about today. And yeah, today is Matt's birthday, and I am at a bakery waiting for it to open so I can get him a carrot cake. So I had time also to do this, and everything's just working out great today. Anyway, I hope that helped anybody. I know there are a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of, you know, deep-seated things, and I think part of why things are maybe easier for me is because somehow, just wildly, I don't know how this even happened, like, I've been dealing with this stuff sort of consciously and purposely since I was a teenager. So, you know, like, some of this stuff is not, at least it's not unfamiliar to me. Even if the thing is something I don't want to deal with, I at least am familiar with the process, the experience of going through something that transforms you. And so I'm like, well, okay, yeah, there's grief involved. Maybe there's anger involved there. Maybe there's like a few days of feeling really depleted from maybe having thought about some of it or whatever. But I can handle that. You know, it takes the edge off a little bit. There's less fear, I think. There's more just like, I don't wanna, like, that's the big thing, is like, I don't want to deal with that. I just don't, you know, I feel icky about it. I don't like the way I feel about my role in that thing. I don't like the way I feel about how I started to view myself immediately after that. So I really don't want to go back there and then feel that even more. Like, I don't want to go back there and risk that I'm going to come to a conclusion that, like, I really am bad. And I really, you know, like, I don't know. There's just, I think, that's like where that's where I get stuck with that stuff. I'm just like, ugh, I just really don't want to. I just really don't feel like it. I'd rather just continue to experience the consequence, whatever it is. Anyway, again, I hope that helped anybody. I'm gonna go get Matt's carrot cake now. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Thanks, Emperor James. If I forgot to link your channel, I'm really sorry. I'm gonna really try to remember. Just leave me a comment if I forgot. I'm sorry. It's at Emperor James. Right? Shit, it might not be. I will link it below. Have a great day.